Good afternoon. My name is Matt Wilson. I'm a reporter with AIM Media. I'm here today with Luis Villarreal. How are you, Luis?
Doing good.
Glad to have you. Mr. Villarreal is running for a seat in the Texas House. He's running for Texas Rep for District 37. This conversation is part of a series of conversations being put on in partnership between AIM Media, Futuro RGV, the McAllen Citizens League, and the League of Women Voters. These recordings will be put on social media by the Monitor and Futuro RGV. Let's start off, Luis. Why don't you tell me about who you are and why you're running?
So, first of all, I'm Luis Villarreal, running for State Representative District 37. District 37 is a unique district. It was redistricted. It is a very competitive seat for the Valley. It was obviously gerrymandered to make it competitive for Republicans to have opportunity to run and win. So my district includes basically everything north of the toll road 511 there in Brownsville, bordering Rancho Viejo. So I have Rancho Viejo, Harlingen, Los Fresnos, San Benito, all the way to the island, all the way to Willis County, right? And that's my district. And it's a really good district. I'm not going to lie. During my tenure at the state, I got to work in that area. The people in Willis County are great. The people in Harlingen have always been very nice and welcoming, and I'm pretty excited to hopefully, and will be their next state representative November 8th.
Tell me a little bit more about you. What do you do professionally?
So I do property development construction. So I have a company and we build large multifamily complexes along with staffing services and obviously rental properties. We have an array of buildings throughout the valley, and we provide services to an array of companies who need special uses for the facilities. So we build to suit and to need according to whatever the business may require.
You know, you were talking about your district. Something we've been asking candidates was what they view as their district's biggest asset and the biggest challenge it might face. What do you view as yours?
So the biggest asset are the people. Thankfully, my district is very rich and kind and intelligent people. As you know, the Valley, especially Cameron County, has seen an explosive growth. You know, we have the Port of Brownsville, the Port of Harlingen, Port Mansfield. We have all these great ports that have, you know, qualified individuals who take on those challenges. What is the biggest challenge in my district? It's making sure that our people have the opportunities to grow and become self-sufficient and have a bright future. You know, as you know, we're one of the poorest areas, so we need to ensure that our people have the resources to go to college, get educated, or go to a technical trade field and get the training they require so that these companies could come to our area. You know, we've been very fortunate. You know, we got SpaceX, we got all these major companies moving in, but we need to make sure that they hire our people, you know, the people from the Valley, the people that were raised here. Because what happens a lot is that they import individuals who are very qualified, who are now part of our district, and we're happy to have them here, but we have great individuals here in the Valley that if they have the educational opportunities, they will be able to take those jobs. So I think making sure that our people have the opportunities to be educated and be qualified for these jobs is the biggest challenge we have today in my district.
Sure, it's about leveraging that human capital.
Exactly.
You know, if you're elected, what do you think your top 3 priorities would be for your first term?
So as I went block walking in my district, you hear a lot of different things. You know, you go to Willacy and you go to Harlingen and San Benito and the island. Actually, the number one issue is flooding. You know, the streets flood horrendously during you know, hurricanes and everyday rains. So I think that's to be a number one priority in our infrastructure, ensuring that we have the drainage required to take out that water that comes in, so our residents are safe, but not only that, so that industry has the opportunity to come in here and invest here so that they know that their company or their warehouse is not going to get flooded with all their equipment. Sure. Number 2, I think educating our public and our school safety and teachers. You know, as you go around here, everybody knows today that the number one issue is our children. And that's what the parents hear in the door. That's what I hear in the door. You know, it's, you know, are my kids going to be safe? Are they going to have the opportunities? So we need to make sure to work with the legislature and ensure that we have the resources required to ensure that our children get those opportunities that I was talking about just recently. Because that's what parents care at the door, right? More than anything else. And I guess one of the third biggest issue that I would want to address is just, you know, making sure that individuals know that we're open for business, that the Valley is willing to, adapt and adjust to industry to ensure that they invest here. At the end of the day, a family needs to have the resources to pay for school and have a meal. And I want to make sure that they know that if they elect me, they're electing a person who's a businessman who knows how to bring industry in, number one. But number two, will help, mediate and work with the state to ensure that when a company wants to move in, we give them the resources they need and work with them in policy so that they could get the most bang for the buck while investing here and hiring our people for good wages.
I'm sensing a theme, which is economics. You seem really business focused. Do you have any specific initiatives or anything you can do business-wide if you're elected?
Our district is very, very diverse. And you'll see that in my district, we're one of the number one producers of renewable energy here. Willacy County produces enough electricity to power an entire city, but the entire valley by itself. I think a current theme that you're going to see while you interview me is that I feel that we've been underserviced by the state in many ways. We have all this power production in Willacy County, but all these wind farms cannot sell their energy up north because we do not have the transmission lines to sell that energy. So ERCOT has a curtailment that only lets them produce 20% of their capacity. We have all this power and we can't sell it. Why are we being discriminated against in the energy market? There's many, many issues that has put the valley in a difficult situation. If this wind farm was located anywhere in the state by San Antonio, all of that energy would be sold. So why are they doing that? We have prime locations for, solar panels that could be installed to sell. But again, it goes back to there's no capacity in the transmission lines to sell this energy. And as you go interviewing me, you'll hear that basically I believe that a lot of our fundamental problems in my district have to do with the lack of opportunity for our people. And the opportunity that they need are jobs so that they could move forward.
I liked what you said about the transmission lines because that's a pretty clear-cut problem. How would you fix it?
You know what? I think it's a thing of just investing. ERCOT has a board made up of many individuals, many not from the Valley. It goes back to TxDOT. TxDOT does not have a Valley appointee. It's never had a Valley appointee. So how can we expect to be considered when making decisions while the legislature is taking decisions based on the committees and boards created by the governor and lieutenant governor and do not have representation from the South, right? I think that more than anything, we just need to make sure that our voices are heard and that we work with whoever the leadership party is to ensure that we get our fair share and a fair shake, because most of the time that doesn't happen, and we obviously get put aside unless we become relevant for a business or something else, and then, yeah, whatever you need. But we have so many resources and so many valuable assets that could be shared across the state, and we're being overlooked.
Sure, a seat at the table, I guess.
Yes, and that's more than anything. And I hope to give a voice to the business individuals that are here and to the people that are here to share their ideas and know that you don't need to go to Austin to start a business that's going to help you become successful. You can do it here in the Valley.
I want to switch gears. One of your other priorities was education, and you mentioned school safety. Clearly, that has been a focus since the tragedy in Uvalde. Do you think that the state has done enough in regards to school safety since then? And if not, what would you do if you're elected?
So I believe that the state plays a big role in school safety, but we also have very qualified elected officials that are selected at the local level. And I believe that they are a great guidance to decide what needs to be done in those schools. And obviously the state needs to provide those resources. But more than that, I think there's a common theme, and I know that if you hear all the debates and everything else, is mental health. Mental health is something that needs to be, addressed. And it's not just being said and say, oh yeah, we're highest funding mental health and so on and so forth. We need counselors in the schools that talk to these children. So, when I went to school, I remember there was 3 counselors and there was a school of 600 people.
Right.
I don't think that's changed very much. And now they've become more like academic counselors, more than crisis counselors, so getting to know the child and hey, what's a problem so they could reform. What's happening now is that we have all these requirements through the state and to the federal government for reporting. The few counselors that we have are just filling out paperwork to ensure that we get funding and not taking care of the children. So I think the local school districts are the most qualified to decide what the safety needs to be done in their schools because they know their schools. And obviously one paintbrush cannot decide everything across the state. But number 2, more than anything, We need to fund mental health by having counselors that talk to the kids. And if a teacher sees a red flag, recommend them, whatever the process is. Obviously, there's HIPAA compliance issues, so I will leave that to the people that know. But somehow refer them to go see the counselor so that they could have a conversation. A lot of these things seems to me, and I am not the most educated in this field. I do not have a counseling degree. That we just need to make sure that the kids get the proper attention they require, And what's happening a lot nowadays is that we're putting all this pressure at schools, but you have to remember, these kids spend half of the day in school and half at home. And we cannot control everything, but we need to try our best to ensure that they're able to express and feel safe.
The conversation on Uvalde has been inextricably tied to firearms. It's even prompted bipartisan legislation on gun safety. Where do you stand on guns and gun safety?
I believe, obviously, gun safety is very, very important. And I think more than anything, I was there during the legislature when I worked at the state where they, open carry and all these legislation passed that relax some of these methods in which individuals could get a gun. I think that guns are obviously our constitutional right. We need to keep them. We just need to work with each other and figure out what are the steps to increase those safety requirements to ensure that, number one, we're not violating our rights, but number two, are ensuring that our kids are safe and people are safe. Obviously, how that legislation steps up is a question of the legislature, but more than anything, ensuring that whatever we do, we are working forward and not backwards, meaning that we increase requirements in whatever shape or form, universal background checks or requirements, so that people that are applying for a gun have to go to proper screenings to ensure that they're good citizens that deserve to purchase that weapon. And they're
more background checks. Sticking with education, there's been talk for a while about bringing a law school to the Rio Grande Valley. Is that something you would support?
Yes, I think more than anything is that I think the state has woken up, at least in the education side, and seen the importance of the valley and the future of Texas. We're one of the fastest growing areas in the entire state. They have invested in a medical school. They have invested in all this UTRGV, programs. We're going to get a football team. We're going to get all these things. More than anything is that if we do that, get law school, we need to make sure that it's shared equitably throughout the district. I feel that there's been some more investment in Hidalgo. I understand they're a higher population area. I want to make sure that my district or Cameron County gets an equal representation of that investment. And we are seeing investment in our area, but it's just a difficult path to walk. And I want to make sure that everybody knows that if they elect me, I will work very hard to ensure that our district has a voice on the table to ensure that if any new program comes in, it's located in my district or in Cameron as well as Hidalgo.
Sure, it does feel like, especially with the university, lots of the new exciting stuff is headed to Hidalgo County. Is there anything else aside from a law school that you would like to see go up in Cameron County?
More than anything, at this point, you have to remember that we are tied to funds, right?
Sure.
I just want to make sure, at the very least, that we get our fair share of funds based population-wise, based on whatever metric we need to do. Because, Cameron is still here. If you go to UTRGV in Brownsville, it's beautiful. We got a new, a segment of the medical school in Harlingen. I just want to make sure we continue getting anything we could get, be it a law school, a new mental health program, anything. But it's just important that when we grow equitably throughout the valley, and more importantly in my district.
Branching off that, I know the university's rolled out a med school and lots of great healthcare programs. Healthcare, let's see, at 18.4%, the state of Texas has the highest uninsured rate in the country. About 5 million are uninsured. If you're elected, how would you address that?
So I'm gonna tell you how I'm addressing it as a private citizen.
Sure.
So one of my investments a while back was in a company called Frontier Direct Health. They have clinics here in Harlingen, McAllen, Westlake, Brownsville, Willacy County. And we have a subscription-based program for $69 a month. And you can go there as many times as you need to go see a doctor with no copay. We do not take insurance. It's a full cash payer network. And that has reduced costs for many people that do not have access to have insurance. So you can see a doctor for $69 a month as many times as you want, right? I think that the method we're using today to administer insurance and health insurance is broken. And it can be that we could do a cash payer network, and a lot of people decide to do cash payer instead of implementing the insurance, because the insurance is taking all these fees and all these additional costs that you don't see at the door. Right? You just say, oh, copay $50. So a lot of people, especially individuals with less resources, struggle to even go to the doctor. They may have insurance, but they're like, well, it's only for that when I go to the hospital, because I don't want to pay that $50 to go see the doctor. And I think that insurance needs to be rethought and re-energized and recreated. And more than anything, that we need to fight that fight to ensure that these new ideas in the market get a space. And right now, I'm not going to lie, the company's doing great, and it's growing here in the Valley, but it's growing not because we're better, not because we do better doctor services, but because insurance is so expensive and they can't afford it, right? This is not a replacement for insurance, obviously, but it's a piece of the puzzle that helps reduce costs. Because every time you go renew as a company and you renew your insurances, your premiums goes up. It's kind of an automatically result. Because every time you go to the doctor, even though that's your insurance is going to penalize the employer because they're overutilizing it. And they need to cover the cost and cover the risk pool and so on and so forth. So it needs to be reimagined, and we need to talk to people that are experienced in healthcare, doctors. And I want to say something. We need to make sure doctors are doctors again. Right now, a doctor, I think, on average, for every 15 minutes, it sees a patient needs to do 45 minutes worth of paperwork in the back. And so what about healthcare? It can't be that you're doing more paperwork to get paid than what you're seeing your patient, It's pretty sad.
Legislatively, do you think that's a problem you can tackle?
Nobody could go in there and say, we're going to change everything tomorrow.
Sure.
I don't want to be that type of candidate that says, oh yeah, we're going to go in there, we're going to change this, because any party, Republican or Democrat, that goes in there and says that, it's going to be lying to you. I think that it's all about small steps and big victories, small victories, right, that will eventually become a big victory. As long as we keep pushing the envelope forward, that's all that matters. Because if we don't, we're just going to stay stagnated. I see a problem often, even in my party, in which we want to winner take all. We want to pass this big legislation that rethinks and reimagines everything. And you know what? It won't pass because, there's people in industry, people that work there, people that have interests across the district, not just the business people, but the people who work there, people in the district. So I think it's important, it's not about my ideas, it's about the people's ideas, and I think it's important to take small steps because you can't just make something happen. It's a slow progress, like in business.
Sure. We're getting towards the end. I want to talk about politics a little bit. Mm-hmm. You mentioned that your district, the way it's drawn, makes it a competitive district. How has that affected your strategy for this campaign?
It really hasn't affected my strategy. Believe it or not, I am happy to say that I know my district for a long time, and why I say that, it's not because I live there. It's because I work for Senator Lucio, and he represented all of it. And my district has always been a conservative district, right? We have private prisons in Willacy County, so therefore I am for them because it is something that guides and fuels our industry in Willacy County, right? We have an array of different individuals in our district who have conservative values. And as I work for Senator Lucio, I saw those values and keep going forward. The issue that I have with the way it turned out was that it was done for a specific purpose. If you go and look at the research, if you see the redistricting committee, you see this was done in the last minute due to the announcement of one of the state representatives saying that they wanted to run for a higher office, and they shoved it down everybody's throat to pass this legislation, and it's not an accurate representation of the Valley. They just put all the Democrats in one pocket, and then they put all the Republicans in one district to help push the narrative. But at the end of the day, you have to remember, we represent everybody in a district. So I want to say that people could see beyond party lines and see that it's about a candidate that's qualified, that knows what needs to be done, that has the experience to make sure that we get something for our district. So I welcome the challenge, and we keep moving forward, and that's what I have to say about that.
I want to ask one more question, kind of based on that. You mentioned your time with Senator Lucio at the Capitol. It feels like the Texas legislature has reached kind of a boiling point. It's not pretty. It might make for good headlines, but it doesn't necessarily look effective. What will you do to reach across the aisle and work with Republicans?
I think it's important to see legislation issue by issue and the importance of each vote, right? Because sometimes there's situations in which you need something for your district, and it may turn out that they will, I will support you there, but I need you to support me in my legislation. And I think that's how you take it down. You take it issue by issue. You make sure that you're not compromising your principles to get what your district needs, but at the same time, you need to remember that you need to work with the other side to get things done. And I think that's something I'm willing to say and I'm willing to commit to. I think it's important to have an open line of communication, hear their issues, see what they need, and vice versa. Ensure that if you're going to go ahead and give them any leeway, it goes two ways to ensure that your legislation goes through, because we cannot have our district suffer due to political lines. And I think that more than anything, my job is to bring the most amount of resources, dollars, jobs, state jobs, private jobs, whatever you want to call it, to my district. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring opportunities, and that is my goal. And I'll do whatever it takes.
Sure, and to me it would seem like economics and industry, that's the place where bipartisanship could flourish.
Exactly, and I think that's where we need to focus, because if you go down the rabbit hole, a lot of these issues, they're important issues. They're extremely important issues, but sometimes just voting quietly and then going down your way and doing what you need to do will get you a lot farther than, throwing bombs back and forward and so on and so forth. I think politics has become a place where they do a lot of name calling, and I think it's like, you know what, they voted that way. There's nothing, you could tell them whatever you want. They're not going to change their vote. So it's important for you to just ensure that at the very least you get something for your district to ensure that they keep driving forward.
Sure, bread and butter issues.
Bread and butter issues, and that's what I want my candidacy to be.
Awesome. Luis, that's all I've got for you. If you want to tell the voters something, we've got a minute.
I would encourage you to ensure that when election comes, October 24th, that you bring your family to the voting location. A lot of the times we go vote and we go by ourselves, it's just easy. But sometimes I even encourage you, if you have a daughter over 18 or a boy under 18, still take them. You need to create a habit to ensure that the future generations go vote, because if they don't, they're not going to get a voice. And a lot of people, I was very fortunate that my family always took me to the voting location as a little kid, and I was there, and it just became a tradition. Oh, I need to go vote. It's a responsibility. And more than a responsibility, it's a way for your voice to get heard. So, and a lot of people forget, oh, well, I got busy. We have 2 weeks of early voting, and we have election November 8th. Please make time, plan, and call your friends. Take a friend. It doesn't take much. With that, I want to end, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Again, folks, Mr. Villarreal is running for Texas House District 37. He's running as a Democrat against Janie Lopez, who is a Republican. Again, this conversation is part of a series of conversations that will be posted on the Monitor social media as well as Futuro RGBs. Luis, thank you again.
No, thank you.